Hey, y'all. This is another episode of Josh Says Mean, Awful, Horrible, No Good, Dirty, Rotten Things. That's a little too long to put on the title, so we just say Josh Says Mean Things. Hey, what's up? Look, there's video now too. Look, we're repping our new shirt. Ah, look at that. Mo Dial Weird. Let's get weird. I know. Steven was part of that. He was part of it where we came up with it. Um, his photo, the person who he submitted in his photo was the one who designed it for me. Look at that. Awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk to y'all. It has been a month. Woo! It's been a month. It's been a week. It's been a day. I appreciate y'all joining. I know it's been just crazy times for everybody. So I figured we'd do a little stream, just look at photos, give y'all something just to take your mind off all the everything that's going on. I can tell you that my brain is still a little frozen. My brain is still a little unthawed. I'm doing the best I can right now, but man, it's been a week. It's been a month. It's been a year. So I appreciate y'all sticking with us. I just figured it'd be something to do. I don't know, just to be a little different, just to connect with everybody a little bit, since it's so hard to connect with everybody right now. Um, so yeah, I just want to say hey. Yeah, ready for March. I know. I'm kind of scared for what March is going to bring, though. I mean, let's see. January we had shenanigans. February we had shenanigans. What's going to happen in March? Eventually, it's got to get good, right? Eventually, it's got to get good. But based on the last 15 months, the data would suggest no, no, it doesn't. Um, yeah, it was weird for me too. Just to give you a little update on where I was actually working last week. Um, One of our big clients. So I was actually holed up in a hotel while my wife was with the two kids, without power, without water, and she's a champ. Um, so she knocked it out of the park, and I was stuck working for my biggest client, or one of our biggest clients. So it was very weird. I was very isolated. I kind of had a quarantine for the client, and then we got stuck in a hotel and couldn't leave and ran out of food, and yeah, it was weird. So I don't know. I've had like pressure headaches every night, and I have to keep reminding myself to like untuck my shoulders because they keep living up here, and then I have to remind myself to let them down. Um, so yeah. Anyway, we have a wide variety of photos. A lot of black and white, a lot of darker photos than we normally get, but that's okay. That's okay. It's kind of darker times, right? It's that time of year. We don't have as much sunlight to play with, so we're shooting more dark. Um, Also, I am excited. For those of y'all on our Patreon tiers, the upper levels, we have two shoots this month because I had to reschedule February's. And then we also have scheduled out our April one. We're going to do fitness shoots. We have a Star Trail. We're going to have kind of like a fashion downtown stroll walk thing. Um, yeah, it'll be fun. So, and I'm taking suggestions from May. So we have a portrait. We have a Star Trail. We have a fitness. So May, I'm taking suggestions on what that shoot should be that I should set up. So I'm just looking forward to seeing y'all, man. I'm just looking forward to getting out and being around people and being around my homies, my Team Blue peeps. Um, so yeah. Anyway, hey Mark, what's up, Aaron? So Mr. Aaron Spieler, he submitted one this month. Aaron was my photo assistant in 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, long time ago. He used to carry around all my gear and set up lights for me and do all that stuff. And now he's a visual artist himself. He's out somewhere in the world making star trails and Milky Ways and all kind of stuff, man. What's up, Aaron? Good to see you, buddy. Boas, as in like snake boas. I don't know if you I don't know if you know me, but I hate snakes. I can't stand them. So maybe not that. Maybe not that. Um, yeah, Mark, how you doing? Um, yeah, so let's go and get started. We'll go. Let's see if this flips over here. Ooh, that's an interesting resize. Well, all right, we're just gonna deal with it. I've played with what's up, Peter? Mr. Peter Bowler coming all the way from California. Peter's normally the one shooting that crazy event I shot last week, but he lucked out and didn't have to like deal with frozen Austin. He got to stay in sunny California all last week. So we normally tag team and shoot for Keller Williams. So I know time flies, Aaron. I know. You got to come visit me again, man. Next time you're in town, holler at me. All right. So this first photo is from Miguel. Miguel loves to send me travel photos and makes me jealous. So yeah, when I, no offense, I hope this person isn't related to him, but the first thing I thought of when I saw this photo, I thought it was Eddie Izzard. I don't know what about it, but something just made me, when I first saw the preview, I was like, is that Eddie Izzard? That's such a weird, that's cool. Look at that. No. I'm guessing this is somewhere Amsterdam, maybe London. It has that not in Austin, Texas feel to it. And what works for this photo is that it is, it's very drab everywhere but what this person is wearing. And the person is wearing bright orange, bright blue. And so I really like that aspect of it. I will say the file feels a little underexposed, especially on the person. I feel like there could have been a little bit more bump there. So, you know, if I had to make a choice there, I would work on that. And then something that we're going to see in a couple other photos. This photo is actually pretty well vertical. If you look at the center telephone post, right, it's pretty straight. But then because of lens distortion, we're starting to see at the edges, those edges starting to kind of come out a little bit. And so just a little bit, you could do it in the lens transform tool or capture one, depending on what you're using, but they both have tools for that. Where you look at the tower over the left shoulder, you see how it's kind of running away. You know, just that little bit for me, that's something that I always kind of see. So that'd be my first thing, is just make sure our verticals are vertical, because then the flowiness of our cape and the hat can just kind of stand alone on its own. And there's nothing for our eye to kind of notice, right? And we want the background just to recede into the background. We want to just show, hey, it's a you know, it's a gray overcast day, but this person is wearing all the color. So you could also use like a radial brush with some exposure, and just bring out our subject some as well. I think doing both of those things would really make that photo pop a little bit more. But yeah, it just feels a little underexposed, especially like around the hands and that kind of midsection. It gets really dark in there. And so something to kind of balance out where our face goes or our eyes go to our subject, and maybe not the apartments in the background, right? So we want to bring up our subject, bring down our backgrounds. So that'd be what I would work on this one. But I love the idea of it. I love the internal framing of it. I love that there's depth of field, right? We have the column kind of out of focus as it comes into focus. So I think all of those are really good. It's a very great street capture moment. And if you really need something fun to do, go look up Eddie Izzard Lego. And somebody took the time to do stop motion animations for some of Eddie Izzard's most favorite comedy bits, and they animate them with Legos. So I highly recommend that as well. So yeah, awesome. All right. Speaking of Mr. Peter, not only does he shoot corporate events with me, but he also does things like portraiture and shoots for magazines and fashion shows, and well, back when we could do all those things. So this is the beginning of what a lot of people did this month, which was submit a lot of black and white photography. I don't know. There's just a lot of kind of darker tones. You know, this kind of has that short light, right? So short lighting where the highlights away from the camera, when we get that kind of just that little peak on the eye, and then the back eye gets the light. So it's really well done. I love the texture and just that little bit of detail in the shirt and the necklace. It's there, but it's not overwhelmingly there, right? Your eye goes immediately to, right, her nose, her eyes, her lips, right? That's exactly where that little thin strip of exposure is, where your eye goes. And then the rest is just kind of framed, right? Now, for me, I don't know how I feel about the space above her. I see it two ways. One, in some senses, I like it. And I could absolutely see if you needed to put graphic or text either above her head or kind of, split like a magazine cover. It's kind of weird. You wouldn't think this, but like a lot of magazine or portraits are shot almost dead center because you need the room above to put text or a masthead or information. I think if we're shooting corporate headshots, right, we tend to crop pretty close to the head. But for magazines, lifestyle, sometimes we don't, just depending on the needs of the client. But I kind of like this like sea of black. Maybe that's just how I'm feeling today. But I really just kind of like this like sea of black and just this thin strip of face. And then the shadows are just kind of there, but not there. I try to do this a lot with my work. But where I get weird is that my shadows, I usually try to put color into my shadows. And then I try to have my highlights something else so that there's another type of contrast. Because I can't do it this well in black and white. I just don't see that. I appreciate it. I love it. And I always try to mimic it. And then I just cheat and just overload with color because I'm not good enough to do it this way. So really well done, Peter. Keep throwing me some work, some photos, man. Send me some next time. I want to see some of your mountain photos next. Maybe, weren't you in like South America or something recent? No, maybe last year. Send me something crazy. But really beautiful. I also like how her face isn't at the camera, right? She's looking away. So, just for everybody else out there, you don't have to look at the camera for every portrait. Black and white's new for you too? Yeah. That's good. I'm trying a new layout for all the stuff, so I don't know why the text chat's so weird, but we're just going to go with it. Look, more black and white. This is from our resident black and white aficionado, Mr. Brian Nixon. Shout out, Brian. What's up, man? He says this is from the Bouncing Souls 30th anniversary concert, I think is what he said. And you would think with them being around long enough, that guy could get an iron. The first thing I noticed is this guy has the telltale signs of like a brand new shirt that wasn't ironed. Like he just pulled it out of like Dillard's, right? Just ripped it out of the thing. Yeah, there's probably still like a stick pin in there somewhere, or like a cuff. There's probably still like a stick needle in there. So yeah, how do you not have an iron, man? Come on, iron out your shirts before you get out for a year. Before you get out and sing in front of a bunch of people. So yeah, nothing for a year. I know. Tell me about it. It's been rough. So yeah, I really like this moment. It's very cool. What I like is that his eyes are kind of split by, there's a fist up in the balcony, and then there's another fist below, kind of in the foreground. So we have this triangle of like fist, eye. And I think those all work together. The one thing I would do, there's another little like two fingers coming up at the very bottom of the screen. I would just bring the crop up just a little bit, just so those two little knuckles aren't there, because that's kind of creepy. So just crop up just to get rid of those bottom knuckles, because we don't lose anything, and then we can kind of bring it in just a little bit. This also makes me want to like go hear live music and go to a show and go out and do things. Somebody posted a photo of like a mosh pit, and not that I've been in a mosh pit in 12 years, but yeah, man, it looked fun. I needed to go do something like that. So I think that's what we're all missing right now. And this is my little weird way of this is our photo mosh pit, right? This is all of us just getting together, chatting, throwing stuff out there, and just kind of going with it, right? We're trying to be a group around photos or something. So. Anyway, Brian, really good. I like everything about it. Just bring up that bottom edge just a little bit. Yeah, other than that, it's cool. Go shoot some live shows, man. I'm ready. Oh, this is from another guest submission. This is from Miss Audra. And it's funny. So this model is, she goes by Cherry Sinatra, but I've been shooting with her for a while, 9 or 10 years. And then Audra's my friend and Cherry's my friend. And then they met up to shoot. I was like, hey. And so I really love this. Kayla's been great. She's done a whole bunch of weird photos with me. So, she's just great to work with. So this is from Aud. I like the pose. I like that we have this S, right, from her shoulder to her hips to her ankles, right? We have that S going. And then very soft hands, right? The hand on the knee, very soft. And then the kind of down and away look, right? And that kind of completes the S. Very good there. And the background is there, but just not quite there. Now, here's my mean things to say about it. I would have cropped in just a touch just to get rid of, there's just a little bit of the edge of the toilet right by her shins. I would have just cropped that out. We don't need to see that. The other thing too, and I'll get into this a little bit, but the skin smoothing, I don't know if it's because of the resize or what, but it seems like the skin retouching, especially on the legs, it was good for the most part, but then at the transition zones, got to be a little crunchy. And so I don't know what skin softening technique you were using or what software you're using, but it seems like there was just like right at the bottom of her leg and at the top of her leg and then around her calves. It just got a little sketchy there. So something to look at, something can always refine. I use Portrait Pro for my skin retouching now. I've tried 1,000 different skin retouching software. Anything that says they could do it, I tried it because I was always searching for a better way. I've done frequency separation. It's very time consuming. I just don't want to do it that much. So yeah, I use Portrait Pro now. And actually, they also have a new thing called Portrait Pro Body, which is kind of cool. I've been playing with that as well. I'm probably going to do a demo on that maybe for the next, Josh says me, the next Lightroom Live we do. I may be doing Portrait Pro and then Portrait Pro Body because I think it's interesting, especially for those who do portraits at all. But I love the toning. I love the color grading of this. It kind of has, it's not too red. I know Kayla's cheeks are kind of red. Her hair is very red. And so it's very easy to go overboard on the reds, but I think this is kind of subdued. And the focus stays on her, kind of that center, right? From her left eye to kind of her mid thigh. That's kind of where your eyes go, and everything else is just nicely vignetted, a little bit darker there. So really good. Thanks for submitting on. I appreciate it. Anytime anybody wants to send me a photo, Kayla, great. Love to talk about it. She's wonderful. So awesome. All right. This is from Miss Christine St. Laurent. She's another Pflugervillian. And this is a Hotel St. Cecilia location, very popular location. It's got that really cool soul neon. And here's what I would say about this location. I think everything about the composition is fine. I would have just brought the subject, instead of having them against the wall, I would have brought them up maybe 10 feet closer to me. I feel like the couple kind of gets lost into the background and into the hedges there. Remember the Simpsons, right? Where he just kind of backs away into the hedgerows. Right, that's kind of what it feels like here, right? They're just kind of backing away. So I would have loved to seen the couple up closer to the camera. It would have made them bigger and minimize the soul where it's not so dramatically bigger than they are, right? Again, the example, if you're shooting the Eiffel Tower in a couple, you wouldn't put the couple at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower. You would bring them 200, 300 yards away so that you could have some sense of scale. Right, so bring the couple up. The other thing it would do, if you look at like her top of her forehead, the back of his head, that neon is really highlighting off pretty hard on them. And so by bringing them off, you're taking that away from them. You're taking that ambient light away. The other thing we could do then is, since we're bringing them off that wall with our off-camera lighting, we can change our angle of it. And our fall off can be much quicker by bringing it closer to them and bringing them closer to the camera. And then our flash isn't going to light up the hedgerow, and it's not going to overexpose that soul. So then we could expose for the background, right? That ambient of the soul, we could expose for that, bring the couple up, and then our flash can work independently of that instead of competing against it. So that's kind of how I would do this. I'd bring the couple up closer to me. And it also help kill. So if we notice, the flash is also kind of killing the reflection, because it's got to travel across the water. So it's lighting up the water. So if we bring them up, we can kind of reduce some of that, and it would make the reflection even more dramatic. So a spot grid would also help, or snoot or spot grid, just to highlight the couple and not spill anywhere else. So that's what I would do. Hotel St. Cecilia, very cool place. All right, this is from Michelle. She sent it to me. She goes, I already know what I did wrong. Okay, so I'll be quick about this one. One, don't cut off people's feet. Crop up or crop out, but don't make them pirates. We don't want them walking on peg legs. Also, you chose like the most difficult thing to shoot, which is somebody wearing very dark or black clothing against snow, which is very white. There's no camera on Earth that can expose the snow and the black in the clothes properly in one exposure, right? The human eye, we can see 22 stops of information. The best cameras can see maybe 14. And so you're always going to be a little short on dynamic range. It's not the fault of the photographer. It's just cameras aren't as good as the eye is. And so that's always going to be a tough thing to do with snow or sand, especially white sand. It's very hard to get both detail in the sand and if they were wearing dark clothes. Now, the one advantage of shooting in the snow is you get a good bounce, right? The sun's hitting the snow and it's filling light into our subject as well. So yeah, don't cut off the feet, especially when you have room. Also, get a little bit lower. Give us some foreground to lead up to the subject. And then by getting lower, it's going to put the subject's head above the horizon line and kind of make that stand out a little bit more instead of having their face compete with that dark section of the horizon. Okay. But I do like the glow of the light, but just a little bit of more care with our composition, and I think we'll be a lot closer. All right. Okay. So this one is from, she goes by Crasian. Some people call her Summer. So there's a couple things I want to talk to. She also sent me the raw file, and so I did an edit on it, and I want to show you what I did after I talk about it. But this was photographed in Fredericksburg, I believe, hill country, wine country of Texas. And it's this cool little moment of a couple sitting on a bench in front of a winery. Very cool. But when I looked at the raw, I noticed a couple things. One, camera settings. I'm guessing that auto ISO was being used. And auto ISO has always made me nervous. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a control freak. I want to take exact control over what I'm shooting, but this was shot at ISO 5000 f11, and we're full sun. So, and we were at like 5,000th of a shutter speed. So, you know, I think sometimes when the cameras go to auto ISO, the settings can get very funky. And so the first thing I would do, it got pretty noisy in there. And so, you know, bring that down. You could have easily been at 400 ISO, even if you want to stay at f11. The other thing is the above the building, it gets kind of messy. And then we have this car in the kind of on the side driveway, that kind of takes us out of this like anytime feel. And so let me show you what I did. I'll show you kind of what the rest of the photo looked like. So it was a much wider photo. It was shot much wider. And what I did is I took it into 16:9 crop format, because I like this idea of this old time building with a couple enjoying maybe a glass of wine or something, but then showing the chaos of the city around it. And I kind of like that. So some of the things I did a radial filter in Lightroom, and I warmed up the center to really play off all that warm tone hitting the sides of the buildings, and kind of where our main subjects are. And I like that there was people walking and there's cars driving and there's just kind of chaos. And then in the center of that chaos is, just a couple. Something else that's done a lot for this type of photo. This was shot at 1/5000th of a second. I think this would have been a great case for shooting at like 1/10 of a second and having the motion in the cars, right, really amplifying the chaos of a busy street with this center part that is kind of a respite from that chaos, right? So if we have a center part that's calm and everything else is blurry, like imagine the people walking by were blurry and the cars are blurring at another speed and everything's a little shaky, but they're framed and they're still. I think that really amplifies that contrast between chaos and serenity. And so, right, when we have cameras, really we have two things we control: light and time, right? Light and time, right? How much light do we let in and how much time do we let in? And so that's what I would have tried that at least. I would have tried a very slow shutter speed to really let the chaos of the city come through, and then just have this little island of serenity there in the center. So let me go back. Yeah, I darkened down the sky. I brought down my highlights, but then in the center, I added a little bit of exposure to really make sure that your eye went to the couple. I also I had a darkened gradient from the bottom because the car in the lower right was very bright. So I want to darken that down to make sure your eye went where I wanted to go, which is in the center of the photo. not all over. Yeah, cool. Y'all are so quiet now. All right, this one's from Mr. Mark Lasad. I hope I say your name right, Lasad. I hope I say it right. Anyway, this is from Mark. I'm guessing it was shot very recently with all the snow and chaos we had. And I really like the serenity of this photo. I'm guessing it was an HDR or a stacked RAW file. I'm guessing. If I'm wrong, Mark, please correct me. But I really love the highlights and the shadows and the darks. Like, it's just very nice, like zones of white to highlights to midtones to blacks. Aaron, still here. I know, I'm coming up for you, man. I'm coming up for you. You know, I think I can tell. I don't know. It feels like, although on some of the edges, especially on the foreground rocks, it feels like there's a little bit of haloing going around the edges. And that may just be the sun. I'm not sure, but it has that like kind of HDR characteristics. Good or bad. But it definitely has an aesthetic to it that's kind of pleasing. It just kind of lets your eye wander through the whole frame. I would say there's kind of not really like a dramatic subject. There's like not a specific thing that we're supposed to be looking at here. I do like that we have these kind of big boulders or bushes with snow on them as our foreground, and kind of goes into the midground and to the back. But I don't know exactly what my subject is here. I guess that stand of trees kind of in the center there. But I don't think that matters so much. I think it's just nice, easy, kind of overall scene more than any specific subject. And that's fine too. It's kind of a vibe. It's kind of a vibe. So, but yeah, interesting. See, look, more black and white, right? I know. So yeah, the only thing, Mark, that I would do, there's some bushes on the far right, I think, that are a little distracting, but I know that you were doing it to kind of center up the sun coming through. So, you know, again, hey, move 10 feet to the right. Well, there was a cliff there. Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. I know. What I'm saying is, in an imaginary world where we could do anything. But yeah, those bushes on the right, I think, are just a little distracting. But that's my only really quibble with it. Maybe a little bit of halos on the bush in the front. Awesome. All right, this one's from Kendra. Thanks for waiting, Kendra. We have a falling drop. So, Kendra, my question is, how long did you wait for this to drop? Right? How many shots did it take to get the dropping to happen? I'll wait for you in the comments. You know, I think this is a good example of what we talked about last time, which was photos having a weight to them, where there's action in here on the right-hand side, and we kind of have a lot of negative space on the left. This type of photo would be like a great stock photo because people could put text or a graphic or something else on the left-hand side. But I think the action kind of has, I think we have good weight to it. A lot. Yeah. I've tried to get photos like this before, and it takes a lot of photos, right? You're just like, I think it's going to happen. And then trying to stay in focus and not move too much. Yeah, it's tough. When you see really well done photos like this, just know that there's a lot more exposures that you never will see than you will see. That's just kind of the way it goes. So yeah, I mean, I really like the falling. I'm kind of curious, also kind of what your settings were. This again, I think could be very interesting shot at a fast shutter speed, which is what this feels like, versus a slow shutter speed, pseudo HDR. Okay. You know, having the drop actually have a motion blur to it. I'm not saying it's the right choice, but it would be a choice. You know, and then maybe coming up a little bit on the icicle, there's a pretty good amount of area below. We could have come up just a little bit and maybe give us a little bit more context of what's going on. But I do like that in the water drop that it's an inverse of the background, right? So that's always kind of fun to do as well. So anyway, good, Kendra. Good to have patience and just shoot through something. Right, just like I know what I want to do and just sit there long enough. Topaz HDR. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just know that I just thought that little bit of halation right around those fronts was kind of my giveaway. The rest of it I thought looked really good though. I kind of liked how it was flatter. I think it'd be too easy to do like super dramatic black and white, but I think the way you did it, Mark, had a little bit more serene quality to it. So anyway, good job, Kendra. Way to have some patience and perseverance to getting the shot you wanted. All right, this is from Mr. Steven from one of my classes. Actually, this class is where, so the person in this photo, that's Jess. Jess, I don't know if you're watching, but she's the one who put this together for me. Our new mode dial, Let's Get Weird. If you like a shirt there, it's in the comments, scroll up and you can go to our Teespring and order one for yourself. Yeah, so this was a multi-light, multi-color. We're actually shooting against a projected background. So there's a projector projecting this background, so we expose for that, and then we bring our lights in with different colors, and then we had Jess kind of with this like cyberpunky vibe. The background's actually a still frame from Cyberpunk 2077. So it's just kind of showing what we can do. I'm actually going to be working some more with backgrounds on Thursday, so maybe I'll have some more to show with you next week. But yeah, you know, Steven, I think we're still kind of playing. I think for you, kind of still getting that like your angles for portraits. People aren't ducks, but still just trying to get that like the reflex of like how to frame and what to put in and what to leave out. So we'll keep working on it. You know, again, we have a center focus portrait, but in this case, we actually have a graphic above her head. And this kind of shows what I was talking about earlier, right? We have room for the graphics behind. And so a lot of cases, you wouldn't think it, but you actually do shoot a lot of center point focused portraits because we need to put stuff above. So yeah, this is Jess. She's great. Jess and I have been working together a long time as well. It sounds weird, but like I've known Jess since she was 13 because her mom was like, her mom and my dad know each other. And so anyway, we've been doing fun stuff. She's been great. So yeah, this is from our Let's Get Weird class. We're going to be teaching again in March at the new Precision South store, so that'll be fun. It's harder to shoot against these backgrounds, the projected backgrounds. I'm still kind of dialing in. I would say that I should have used an egg crate grid on our key light to control the spill a little bit more. I should have done that because I think that Precision Studio's got white walls, and I think our lights were bouncing around the white and kind of washing out our projected backgrounds. So that's something I got to work on and remember a little bit more. But yeah, I like your processing on this one, Steven. Also, I'm curious if you played with the in Lightroom, you can play with the individual color contrast curves. So right, instead of just doing an overall contrast, you can go into red. You can play with like red cyan and blue and yellow and all those, and you can individually adjust the color contrast. And especially with at a photo like this where we have reds and purples and greens, you can really like play with those color curves and give you some very different results. So the person I learned that from, there's an author, a photographer named Nick Fancher, and he has a book called Chroma. If anybody wants to borrow Chroma, let me know. I will send it to him. It is a great book, but that's where I learned the technique of color correcting using color curves. Now, Lightroom has gotten a little bit better by using the color grading tools that they brought in from Premiere, right? So they're using the Lumetri color circles where you have highlights, midtones, shadows. So that I don't use the color curves as much, but I think it's still powerful, especially when we're using some of our like tri-lighting techniques. All right, this one's from Mr. Kosh. So how long did it take y'all looking at this photo until you realized there's another person in the photo? So this was shot on, I want to say he told me he shot this on his 105 1.4. Nikon makes this crazy portrait lens. It's a 105 1.4. And it took me maybe 30 seconds before I even realized that the groom was standing behind the bride in this photo. So look, there he is. All right, there he is. Now, I like everything about this photo, right? Love the texture, love that her face is just this really soft light kind of coming in and filling her face. We see all this really cool detail. By posing, we brought the hand in to hold the rest of the sari and the dress, right? It's there to show the detail of the henna, right? So we have all of that going with us. The only thing I would have done differently is I would have switched the bride and the groom's stance in. She's looking away, and if you look at his photo, he's looking away. And I think it would be much interesting if she was on the right-hand side of the photo and he was on the left, and keep their gazes the same so that her gaze is looking past him and his gaze would be looking past her. It feels to me a little, I don't know, it feels a little off to have the bride and groom both looking away from each other without having a physical closeness. I like this type of posing where they're looking away when their bodies are physically close. Maybe there's touching, there's a physical connection. But when there's not a physical connection, I want their gaze to be the connection. Right? Does that make sense? So our gaze can be the connection, even if they're out of focus, or make it more obvious that he's looking at her. So I need some connection with our gaze if we don't have a physical closeness, right? So if we move her a step to her left, screen right, and move him a step to his right, screen left, then their gazes cross, right? But this lens is just, that's beautiful out of focus, right? That 105, ooh, chef's kiss. Right, so look at that. Look how out of focus she is. But also, if we switch that, it would also even out the exposure from the lighting. It would have given him a little bit more light, and he's a little bit darker, and she's a little bit brighter, and it would have evened out that lighting just a little bit as well for those two frames. Ooh, cedar allergies come back now. The freeze is gone, and here comes cedar again. Oh boy! All right. This one's from Kiera. I think she shot this today. She told me she was shooting bridals today at 2 o'clock. And if you live in Texas, we had no clouds at 2 o'clock. Full sun, no clouds, blue sky. Ooh, she was prepared with polarizers, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to go inside, which I think is a smart choice here because everything's dead and frozen and kind of the grass is dead. It's yucky. So good choice on going inside. Right, very common bridal portrait. Put them by a big light source. In this case, we have big windows. So again, just like my Eddie Izzard photo from Miguel earlier, she's centered, and I'm guessing this was shot with like a 35, but the camera is tilted a little bit, and so the door is kind of running away from us, and the foreground is kind of running away with us. Again, in Lightroom Transform tool, we can draw those lines and straighten them out. But that was literally the first thing I see because that's OCD. I walk into people's homes and I straighten up all their picture frames. I just do it because I straighten photos all day. It's just a quirk that I can't get rid of. I like the warmth of this. I like the warm and the green. I think that goes well. This photo could be very easy to shoot, and the white balance gets too green because the light's kind of bouncing off those green doors. There's nothing you can really do about the patio and all that. There's just nothing you can do about it, right? It's 2 or 3 o'clock in Texas. It's going to be bright. So I think good choice. Put her in the shadow and just let that come in. Now, one of the questions she asked was about posing brides. Like she wanted some more advice on posing brides. I think Lindsay Adler's book Posing is a really great way to kind of get over some of those posing fears. There's also a clip that Jerry Ghionis did on Creative Live a couple years ago, and he went through like 50 poses in 5 minutes. And I don't necessarily use them all, but the mindset for him to get there I thought was interesting. So Jerry Ghionis posing Creative Live, it'll probably come up on YouTube. Very interesting. So for me, she's just a little too casual. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more twist, or that right elbow just back a little bit. And instead of telling people to move their elbow back, I tell them to raise their hand a little bit, and that makes the elbow bend a little bit more. I also, maybe you can bring their hands in front, and that gets the elbows out. If you tell them to grasp hand over hand, it kind of naturally brings your elbows out and gives you more of a triangle instead of a rectangle. Cool, Stephen. I'll send it to you. So, that, and then I think her turning her body completely the other way and then having her face turn to the light, right? So we have body going that way and then face going this way. I think could also work as well, right? Just to give us more tension in the photo. But her face, the plane of her face and the plane of her body are the same. And if we could break those apart, I think that could also be more interesting. It might also be a good spot to have her back to us where that train is coming at us, bring the camera physically lower and let the train be more of the foreground. And then have her face looking out where we have that short lighting out to the window. So that'd be something else you could do. Yeah, but posing, yeah. Lindsay Adler has a great book on posing. I pick it up whenever I'm kind of bored. I just go through and skim through it, and it's always great because I'm always worried about boring posing. I try to stay energetic. Awesome. All right, this is Mr. Aaron's. I really like this waterfall. Um, I love the fall colors and this kind of water in the center. Right, it's kind of we're looking through this viewpoint of I don't know. We're just looking through this little window, right? This internal framing. The issue I have with this is that our internal framing is interrupted by the white in the sky in the upper right, and so it gives. I want to force the viewer to look through the window of the leaves, and I don't want to give their eyes a chance to escape out in that upper right corner. Okay. So what I did, I just did a square crop. I just did a 1-to-1 square crop, and look at the difference. Right? There's no place for your eyes to leave, and so it forces you to come back to the waterfall, and it forces you to look through the leaves. I'll go back. Now here, I can just kind of run, my eyes can just run out of the frame, and I'm not forced to come back into the waterfall. Right? So by a simple, going from an 8x10 crop to a 1-to-1 crop, we're keeping the color of the trees. We're still forcing, but now I'm forcing you to look through that window, and there's no place for your eyes to escape. And so it kind of keeps you in that loop inside the leaves and with the water. Okay. Now I do like that the water has motion in it. It's not completely frozen, but it's not that, 3-second waterfall exposure where everything's just blurry. It's kind of in the middle, and I like that. I like that there's some motion, but it's not just, it's not shot at 8,000th of a second, but it's not shot at 5 seconds either. And so I think somewhere in the middle is kind of where I want to live with this, and I like that. I love the toning. I really love the greens and the oranges that come out in all this, and the rust and the red. I like all that, but I want to force you to look at it. So by getting rid of that white space, I want to force you to look at the center of the waterfall and not give you a chance to escape. All right, and this is going to be our last one. This is from Mr. Dragon Lingo himself. He told me that this is, I think he said he had a UV conversion, or he had some type of UV filtration, and then he was painting with a light painting, a long exposure light painting with a UV reactive, either subject or light. I didn't quite catch everything that was going on. And so if we squint, right, let's just remove the detail and squint, right? I love the colors. I love that there's a circle, right? Blue circle with orange and orange, right? That's cool. And we don't have to see all the circle, right? We have that crop. We have the inner circle. It's good. I will say I've shot some UV and UV reactive stuff. Cameras, digital cameras in particular, really have a hard time in that like 2,000 to 2,500 white balance. Like anything in that color range is just, man, it's tough for them to register. And normally like a 50-degree shift in white balance wouldn't be a big deal, except in this range. And in this range, even a 50-degree shift in white balance is huge. And so it's really hard to get good data out of the camera. Just those blues are really hard to capture. Sometimes when we shoot like weddings or corporate events and they have that blue uplighting, man, it's just that color spectrum is really, really hard for cameras to pick up. It just doesn't know what to do with it. And so that's a pretty tough choice. What's up, B? Mr. Brian, your photo was the second one, so you're gonna have to go back and watch. But yeah, just so you know, if you're trying to do something like that, anything in that blue range, that very ultraviolet range, it's a very, very narrow band that your camera will actually gather the data. And then in post, man, it's just a struggle you're going to be fighting with your files the whole time. Like it's just tough. And so I applaud the effort. I applaud the effort to do an abstract macro with UV. Like that's a lot of things going on. So I applaud the effort. And it's actually really close. It's a very tough thing to do. Based on the content though, I really love the orange and the blue balance. And I like that, I don't know, it very much could feel like it would be like a photo in a bar, right? It kind of has that like bar vibe, or like a funky hotel might have something like this up on the wall. And so I can see what you're going for, and it's really close. But just that little bit of those blues is it's tough. I can't even tell you necessarily how to fix it. But just know if you're trying to do something in this color range, blues are going to be hard. But I do like the blue and orange contrast. I do like the squared circle, right? That's always a good choice. So awesome, yo. Awesome. Well, that's it for our February episode. I really appreciate y'all tuning in and joining with us. Yeah, we'll be doing, I think I want to do, so we'll be doing Lightroom Live in a couple weeks. And I think we're going to go over Portrait Pro and Portrait Pro Body. So we'll show kind of how we can shift and do that. And I'll figure out my settings so that software doesn't crash on me. So it's going to be a little bit more, it's not really going to be Lightroom. It's going to be more Photoshop, but I think it'll be interesting. I want to show off kind of my process for some of the photos we did last time, and fully edit them in Portrait and in Nik effects, and show you some of the Nik effects I use, and the skin retouching that I do as well, just to show you kind of what goes into it. Does that sound good? Does that sound good? I think so, right? We'll do some portrait retouching, and that'll dovetail with some of the shoots we have lined up as well. So thanks for watching. Steven, I will send you that book. If anybody else wants to get on the list for Nick Fancher's Chroma book, it's really good. I have some of his other books as well. So let me know if you want to borrow some books. We can start a little Team Blue book club. Anyway, tell your friends about what we're doing. We always appreciate it. And then I'll be sending out an email list this weekend, and it'll have all of our upcoming classes at Precision. We're starting to roll out a bunch of classes again. So we're going to be teaching some at the South Store, some at the North Store. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to holla. All right, guys, we'll see y'all soon.